For those who remember playing Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, you might remember all the portrait ghosts you had to capture. Here's a list of backstories made for all of them in the order you capture them all. Disclaimer: some of these stories are sad and have some violence in them. Just warning you. Neville Charms was a family man who had a passion for books. His family consisted of his wife, Lydia, and his sons Henry, Orville, and Chauncey. However, tragedy struck him when his twin sons died from suffocation and his youngest succumbed to illness. Soon after, his own wife died in his own hands, and struck by so much grief, he was later found dead in his study with a book named The Afterlife and a bottle of cyanide. Some believe after drinking the bottle, he read the book before it took effect. Lydia, the wife of Neville and the mother of Henry, Orville, and Chauncey. Lydia was a pretty woman who admired her looks and her children, but experienced her first heartbreak when all of her sons died. Not long after, while combing her hair one stormy night, Lydia was slit in the neck by a window glass pane when the window shattered by lightning. When Neville heard her screams, he rushed to her aid and called for help, but no one could hear him, but instead, himself. She soon died of blood loss. Chauncey, the youngest son of Neville and Lydia and the youngest brother of Henry and Orville. Chauncey's life was cut short due to an unknown illness. Although he tried screaming for help, his parents couldn't hear him as the illness weakened his vocal cords. By the time Neville and Lydia came to his aid, it was already too late. Chauncey had died at the young age of 1. Some say that his ghost still wails out, calling for his parents that would come. The Floating Rolindas. Tim and Mary Rolinda were a couple who had a passion to dance. First meet during a high school dance. The two danced and improved every step and chance they had in their lives. In their mid-20s, they entered into a dance competition where they blew out the competition and were given first prize. During the night they slept, however, a jealous couple who got second place snuck into their room for good measure slit both of their throats. Even though they were captured later on, the damage they did was done. Shivers, the butler of the mansion, was a nervous butler who had an admiration for young girls. When a young girl named Melody Pianissima moved in, he admired the music she made and tried to impress her with a bouquet of flowers. However, upon entering the conservatory, he tripped on one of the instruments, causing to drop a candlestick he was holding and set the whole room on fire. Eventually succumbing to his burns, his ghost still haunts the first floor corridor, still wanted forgiveness for what he did. Melody Pianissima. Melody was a young woman who loved music and video games, but had a nasty temper that was easily set off. Because of this, it was hard for her to make any friends and focus a lot of time playing. When she entered the mansion, she was busy playing the piano when Shivers entered and offered her flowers. After Shivers tripped and set the room on fire, Melody hid under the piano away from the blaze. However, one of the legs of the piano broke, and it crushed and killed her. Even after, you can still hear music coming from the first floor conservatory of the deceased Melody. Mr. Luggs. Billy Luggs was a huge man who loved food and eating even more. He loved it so much that he ate his own refrigerator, ballooning to a whopping 400 pounds and eating as much as 10 people. Mr. Luggs began to hide in the darkness so he would eat in peace and people won't complain how fat he was. His death was predictable when he eventually choked on a 10-layer corned beef sandwich when he tried to swallow it whole. Even after his death, he wasn't satisfied and still eats more and more in the afterlife. Spooky. Spooky was Mr. Luggs' pet, who craved for food as his owner never fed him. The only person who would give him food was Madame Clairvoyant, a nearby fortune teller. After Clairvoyant died of mysterious circumstances, and after Mr. Luggs died of overeating, there was no one to feed Spooky and eventually died of starvation. They say that from the kitchen and backyard, you can hear a dog barking for food, but nothing can be seen. Bogmire. No one knows who Bogmire originally was or where he came from. All is known is that he was accidentally summoned by Madame Clairvoyant and placed a curse on the mansion that everyone who lived in it will die within 2 years. Some believe he's the mansion's manifestation of fear and despair, though he doesn't know who to fear and despair these days. Others say he's the ghost of the original creator of the mansion, who lost his life before the mansion was complete. While many of these theories are still debatable, it is clear that Bogmire still haunts the mansion to this day and still waits for more people to scare. Biff Atlas. Biff Atlas was a bodybuilder and cousin of Slim Bankshot. His arrogance equaled his muscle mass as he taunted that he was the strongest man ever and no one could ever beat him. Growing tired of Atlas' taunts, Bankshot decided to teach him a lesson and punched the punching bag with all his strength. However, Atlas was in front of the bag and the impact threw him across the rec room and landed headfirst into a dumbbell, killing him. Bankshot was later recorded to commit suicide. Miss Petunia. Molly Petunia was a former Miss Swimsuit star who loved taking baths. During one of her baths, Nana, an older woman who lived in the room next to her, decided to play a prank on her. Taking a bucket of ice, she dumped it all in before Petunia got in. After realizing how cold it was, Petunia quickly raced over, but quickly forgave Nana afterwards. Later, it was said that one time she got out of the bathtub, she slipped on some slippery water and cracked her skull on the bathtub rim. Nana. The mother of Neville and the grandmother of Chauncey, Henry, and Orville, Nana was a playful woman who loved games and pranks. Her latest and last one was when she put cubes of ice in Miss Petunia's bath. Another one of her hobbies was knitting and was set on making a record for the longest scarf, which measured 871 feet. However, during one of her knits, she lost control of her rocking chair and caused a cabinet to crash down onto her. It's unclear if she'll ever finish her scarf. Slim Bankshot. Slim Bankshot was a former pool table star. Unlike his cousin Biff Atlas, Bankshot always wanted challenges, but was also humble and not so arrogant. Growing tired of Atlas's taunts, Bankshot punched one of his punching bags in order to prove he had equal strength. However, the impact from the bag threw him across and was killed after landing headfirst on a dumbbell. Horrified by what he did and fearing the consequences of his actions, Bankshot fled to the pool room and hung himself from the ceiling fan. Henry and Orville. The older brothers of Chauncey, Henry, and Orville were two noisy kids that always loved action and jokes. Henry liked cars and Orville loved planes, but the thing that they loved the most was hide and seek, and often let their parents find them. One day, however, while playing a game, the twins hid in two small boxes, but to both of their horror, they realized they couldn't get out. No matter how hard they tried, they soon died of suffocation soon after. Madame Clairvoyant. Madame Clairvoyant was a mysterious woman in the mansion who predicted the future and had her way of fortunes. Oftentimes, she helped certain family members in need, like she gave food for Spooky and cared for Soupy. During one of her spells, she accidentally released Bogmire into the mansion and died trying to stop him, knowing that his death was inevitable. Even after she was turned into a painting, she can still predict fortunes and talk to people for those who look into her portrait. So far, Madame Clairvoyant is the only ghost who accepts being a painting. Boolossus. Boolossus was the result of a manifestation of 15 enemies that had perished and were reincarnated as boos. The boos were then combined into a behemoth and later formed as Boolossus. Their weaknesses were ice and looks, but when they turned into Boolossus, their fear was gone, but still affected by ice. After the fight of Boolossus, he was eventually captured, and King Boo cursed Luigi by having lightning strike the mansion, causing a blackout. Uncle Grimly. Uncle Grimly was a mysterious man who loved the darkness and scaring people. No one in the family knew his background was only that he only kept to himself and loved mirrors. Since he loved darkness, Grimly wanted to have it so much that he snuck into the breaker's room in the basement and tried to turn off all the electricity However, upon trying to destroy the breakers with an axe, he electrocuted himself and died. This is the only death that suited the family just fine. The Clockwork Soldiers. 3 human-sized wind-up soldiers that were built by an unknown toy collector and businessman who lived in the mansion at some time. The toy collector, however, was plagued by a shrewd businessman who wanted to steal his creations. Eventually, after the rival stole so much of his work, the collector died. When the rival came back to steal the soldiers, they killed him with their rifles to avenge the creator. They later soon threw themselves on a chimney and burned up. Sue P. Sue P, a niece of Madame Clairvoyant, was a girl who had a sleeping disorder. If she were to sleep, she could not wake up for days. Clairvoyant knew about this, and when she was not telling fortunes or predicting the future, she would tend to her aid when needed. After Clairvoyant died, Sue P was so grief-stricken by the death that she locked herself in the guest room and fell asleep. She quietly later passed away due to a coma. Jarvis. Jarvis was originally a collector who had an interest in jars. His collection ranged from jars nearby to jars from the 4 corners of the earth. One day, he loved his jar collection so much that he decided to sleep in one of them. Once he got in, however, he couldn't get out and eventually suffocated in the jar he admired. It took 2 weeks until someone found his body. Sir Weston. Having returned from a trip to Antarctica, Sir Weston developed a liking for the cold and mostly spent his days in the cold storage of the mansion's basement. One day in the storage, Sir Weston suffered from frostbite all over his body, rendering most of his body numb. Numbers of doctors tried to persuade him to get out of the cold storage. Weston refused and stated that he loved the cold so much that he would die with it, which he eventually does. Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh was a struggling artist who wanted people to admire and view his works. But over time, no one appreciated his work. Some said it was too common, while others believed they were vague and didn't make any sense. Later, he was found dead in his own studio, believed to have died from a broken heart. King Boo. King Boo was thought to be the spirit of Bowser after the events of Paper Mario. During the malfunctioning of the power platform, due to Bowser wanting more power and Kammy Koopa's attempts to stabilize the arena, the platform exploded, sending Bowser and Kammy Koopa falling to their deaths. Later, Bowser's spirit lives on with King Boo wanting revenge for Mario. King Boo then met Boolossus and made him his comrade. The two would cause havoc around the Mushroom Kingdom until Professor Egad captured Boolossus in order to test his ghost portificationizer. This only enraged King Boo, and he, along with the other Boos, planned an attack on Egad's laboratory, reversed the effects of the portificationizer, and released Boolossus, along with the other portrait ghosts trapped in the portificationizer. They all then take residence in the abandoned mansion and capture Mario by giving both him and Luigi a bogus winning ticket from a bogus contest, in which the prize was the mansion. Mario was captured, and it was up to Luigi to save him. Later, when Luigi faces King Boo, he reveals himself to be Bowser and resurrects his body to attack Luigi. Hey look, you managed to reach the end of this video. So, funny backstory is that I've been planning to write this for a long time, and before I was about finishing it, I found out somebody actually had the idea before me, which blew my mind. So I want to give a special thanks to Anonymous from DeviantArt for writing this very fantastic fan-driven theory, which I appreciated. And I also added a little bit of my section because he does have some missing parts. But all in all, I really enjoyed this. Hope everybody enjoyed this. Leave a like and comment down below. If you want more content like this, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Share this with someone you know. And remember, don't have a cow, you got one now.